We're starting now. Thank you very much for joining us again to this episode of Learning from the Top. Today, I'm very honored and very happy to host and to have an interview with former top FIVB referee and member also from the FIVB Refereeing Commission, and now current members of the USA Volleyball Refereeing Commission, Tom Blue.
Thank you, Roy. I appreciate your invitation to join. As I was saying, I guess most of what I'll have to say is about history in volleyball. Although I do have some remarks on what's happened to the game and to refereeing in general. That it's very nice to see you and to have this opportunity to express what has gone on.
I think one of my main reasons to invite you is to learn a bit about history, to know how referees were thinking and working the times before all the technology and all this evolution of volleyball. But I think that some of the main things that are important for a referee, that the skills, that the abilities that you need to be a top referee or a very good referee, they don't change so much. And once you have a very experienced referee from the past or from present, it's almost the same opinions and subjects that we can talk about. So it's very important for me also, for us, to hear from your past experience as a top referee. I'm going to start with the first question.
Yeah.
What is your first memory of volleyball in your life? How volleyball entered into your life?
In 1965, started playing at a summer camp on an asphalt court. We played doubles. Playing on an asphalt court is probably why I never learned how to dive.
Okay, yeah. Very dangerous, very dangerous.
I think I did once, and then that was it. But it was a summer camp. We played doubles in our spare time, and that got me hooked. Then when I went to the university, I played on a club team. And then again, when I went to study law, I joined a club team. And this club team happened to have 3 international referees playing on the team. I don't know if you remember the names of Glenn Davies and Tom Slaymaker.
Yep.
Glenn was I think the only referee who called 4 gold medal Olympic matches. But he was our coach, and there were 2 other international referees on the team. And it was the custom at tournaments is when you're not playing, you're the work team. And, we had these 3 international referees on the team. They said, Blue, you go up. And I had only refereed informally. So I got a lot of instruction.
Politically saying, yeah, and instructions.
We had debriefs after every match, and I got instructed very quickly, very fast on the art of refereeing, and that was the beginning. Then when I started to practice law, I moved to Virginia and came under the instruction of another international referee and a very top national referee. So I had a lot of folks right from the beginning that I would call mentors. And I think it's just absolutely very important for people to have such mentors to get them going.
So do you think that you as a player as well gave you some experience, some bonus to be a good referee because you've experienced also the playing side of the match?
I always like to see good players become referees. They have all the instincts
Mhm.
of what's probably going to happen next in the rally, in the match. They know what coaches are thinking. They know what players are thinking. The only problem with players is making sure that they take off their playing hat and, you know, and put on their referee hat. I think Patty had a great story when she was about to tell a player, because she had been a prior coach, no, you got to move out there and make your approach from here. And, you know, and stifled that while she was refereeing. I think players, I've seen a lot of very good players become very good referees.
So through your beginning of your career, who were besides the ones that you just spoke about, who were the role models that you can consider the one that helped you become who you were, or the top of the ranking?
The top referees at the time, and there were a lot of real good ones then. Pepe Sandler from Cuba, Kostas Margaritas from Greece, Jean-Francois Marty from France, Willie Paredes, and Juan Pereira from Argentina, Josebel Palmarin from Brazil, Takashi Shimoyama from Japan, Sonsak Cheriampong from Thailand. We're all very active when I was going to the events in the 80s and 90s, and they were fantastic role models.
All the legends, all the big names.
Yeah, I mean they were at the top of their careers when I was starting FIVB, and so it was wonderful to have them to watch.
You are a member of the USA Volleyball Refereeing Commission, and you were also a member of the FIVB Refereeing Commission. How do you accept and adapt the changes of refereeing nowadays compared to 20 years ago? How is by your understanding, how did the refereeing change through these years?
Well, there's a lot of things involved here. Refereeing now really requires a much larger skill set just because of the technology. But all the other things stay the same. You still, back when I was active refereeing, you had your own senses and your own personality and your character as your tools in refereeing. Okay, now you've got video challenge, you've got electronic scoring, you've got headset communication with the other officials. So you have a lot of tools, but your appearance as the referee still has to be the same. So it's still you, if you're first referee and second referee, that controls the match with your character, your appearance, your behavior, your characteristics are still the primary tools that you have.
But I can guess that that volleyball has, you know, there wasn't like a natural evolution of volleyball. The things that a referee has to put his consideration or to manage the match. Those times that it was not so allowed like today. Probably the dialogue that you have with coaches or with players and stuff. I think there are some differences.
Oh, there are a lot of differences. Yeah. When I was starting as an international referee, coaches did not talk to you. They thought that they would get the sword, you know, right away. And I would say, yeah, when I was a referee, I was probably not as strict as the others because that had not been the technique here in the States. We would communicate to some degree. But I think that you're right, especially over the past 20 or 30 years, I guess, since I started. The game has progressed to a great degree. The techniques and the athleticism of the players has increased, that so many new techniques, you know, and moves are now being used on a regular basis, and the referees have to adapt their officiating to these new techniques. Somebody would see something for the first time and the other team would go, hey, he can't do that. And, you know, pretty much you'd say, well, he just did. and there's nothing wrong with it.
Mhm. Do you think it's more challenging today to be a referee than past times because of those elements of the speed of the game, or the special techniques that I'm using now?
Absolutely. The ball travels so fast in the men's game, I think it just flat out disappears. You know, I can't imagine being a line judge in today's game and actually being able to see the ball, you know, that lands within 2 centimeters of the outside of a line. Was that in or was that out? I mean, thank God for the video challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
There are a lot of things that the referees now have to get used to, in addition to being what I would say in my day was being a top referee. You have to learn to use the technology, and that's what it is. They're additional tools. Some people use tools well, and some people don't.
I have to say that one of my mentors who retired several years ago, he said that he retired probably in the best timing, because it was the time that we started to have online tests on a regular basis with confederations and the FIVB, and at the same time also the BMI and all the medical requirements that were not so used before. So he said when it started to be tough to be a referee, meaning to be more, there was more work to be done as a referee, he thinks that that's the best time was for him to retire. I'm not saying that it's correct or not.
There are more requirements on a referee now. The health standards are high, and it was always necessary to maintain your good health to be an international referee. There were a lot of international referees that shouldn't have been out there just because they were out of shape. They didn't have the physical characteristics anymore to be able to handle the game. I mean, even it's so much more a mental game or a mental activity to be a volleyball referee than football or basketball or something where you're always on the run. But it still takes a lot of energy. It still takes your entire attention. And if you aren't in good physical condition, it's not going to work out.
So if you're going to review a little bit the interviews that I had with top referees, active referees before, UI, Mockery, and Patty, and all the others, when you're listening to what they say and their thoughts, which period fits your personal ideas better, and why?
Mine?
Yep. Would you think that you prefer this period or the one before?
Oh, I'm very happy that I refereed during the time that I did. I think I could adapt to using the tools. I mean, I helped in the development of the electronic scoring, and and I sort of helped in the development of the video challenge in a very strange way. But and I think they're very useful. You just have to learn to use it, and I think it would be possible. But I was very happy to have left refereeing when I did, and to go into the coaching, mentoring, administrative sector.
I noticed in my previous meetings on several occasions that you are very popular. There people were talking, Tom Blue had a lot of respect for many referees and volleyball personalities from all over the world. You were in high position and you worked in major roles and jobs. Still, a lot of people talk so much positively about you. Can you try to say what about you made them such a big impact on those people to remember you in such a positive way?
Well, when I joined the FIVB's referee commission in 2000, I tried to bring the element of coaching and teaching as opposed to punishing referees. I thought that's what we were supposed to be doing. And I think that that tended to let referees appreciate me a little bit more. I started the practice of taking video cameras to events, and I would set it up at the scorer's table so that I could see from attack line to attack line, plus the second referee and the first referee. And that would let me see 95% of the activity that referees were really concerned with. And then I would edit those and clip out things that were significant and let them see them. And I think that referees, that's one thing I think referees should use more and more and more, is videos of themselves during the matches. And so they can see how they appear to the players, the coaches, the spectators. And once you see that, you tend to self-improve a whole lot.
Yeah, just like putting a mirror in front of you, and you can see that you do your signals correctly or not, your body language, everything. You can have one thought in your mind that you do something, but unless you see it from the other side, you can never know that it's really done or not.
Well, videos let you see at a specific moment of action in a rally, where are you looking? What are you seeing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the video will show that. And if you're looking, you know, at the other side of the net when the ball's on the other side, you'll notice that right away, as everyone else has already noticed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your time as a referee. You whistled so many matches every year, being out of home for long periods and many days. How did the family accept it? How did it influence your personality and everything?
As I like to say, my wife and I have been married for 47 years. And thanks to volleyball, we've had almost 20 years together. So it's, you know, you have to have the support of your family. I mean, there's just no way around it. I had my time, you know, traveling the world, doing volleyball events for 25 years, and she took care of things at home. So that's why I'm now at home, taking care of things and letting her do the things that she wants to do. And I'm very happy with that. Of course, with COVID-19, we're at home anyhow.
Yeah.
And that's the way that's going. But you have to have the support of your family. You have to be flexible at work. I mean, you have to be able to take the time away from your family, your work, your friends. When I was in charge of international referees in the US, and somebody expressed an interest in becoming an international referee, and if they had the talent and the character to be an international referee, yeah, the first thing I would ask them was, could you leave your job for 3 weeks with 1 month or 2 months notice, and then later in the year do another week away from your work several times, you know? And that cut out about 80% of the people who expressed an interest in international refereeing.
Yeah, I guess they don't think about it once they receive. They only have the goal to become international, but they don't understand the consequences with it.
They don't understand what you have to give up.
Yeah.
And whether you have the support of the people around you. So, you know, if they said yes, then there was a chance.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let's talk about the matches and the procedures you had. How were you ready before even receiving the nominations? I mean, this is a question that I ask everybody. Some of them say that they have a bag ready with the uniforms in the closet just for the case that they receive the nomination. It would be just to pull it out. Would you read the rules and the guidelines on a regular basis to keep updated, even without a nomination?
Well, yeah, when I was active, the bag was always packed. It was just which uniform to put in, whether it was a national event or an international event, the bag was always there. All the referee equipment was there. Everything was in the carry-on that needed to be in the carry-on. So, and I was packing so often, I think I could do it blindfolded. I always believe strongly in continuous and consistent preparation for officiating. I think it's essential for referees to read and reread the rules critically in order to maintain status as a top referee. You need to envision match situations that don't happen very often, because occasionally they do. Something like redesignation of a libero, or exceptional substitution. I mean, there have been times when they do happen and the referee was lost. They need to know what the protocol is and go through it. You know, bang, 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 and accomplish that easily. If they don't, then their character in the eyes of the spectators and the coaches and the players goes down. So you need to go through the rules, rule by rule, and the case book, and envision, if this happened, okay, what do I do? What do I do first with this team? What do I do with this team? What do I do with the score? What do I do with my second referee? Et cetera, et cetera. And think of these things so that when you then start going to matches, and they do happen on occasion, you're ready to do it. And I think every time you read the rules and you think about situations involving each of the rules, you'll find something new. Plus, for international events, I always had at least an 8-hour flight. And that gave me plenty of time to go through what I had to go through.
So for my next question, on your way when you received the nomination and you were on your traveling, so you would read the rules, I mean, during the flight, or would you read the rules before and during the travel just to relax and everything? How was the procedure?
When I was at home and I was an active referee, I mean, I did devote significant time just to looking at the rules, rereading the rules. When I was on the commission, we were responsible for explaining the rules. And so you had to know them very well and keep imagining things that were happening. And when you came up against a new technique that players were using or teams were using, you had to evaluate that against the rule and perhaps make a suggestion on whether the rule was still good or whether it needed to be talked about. So yeah, while I was at home, I read the rules. When I was on the trip, I would either look at that, or if I had them, I would try to watch some videos of the teams playing when videos came along. I mean, at the beginning, I just had a rule book, so that's all I could do. Toward the end of the career, yeah, you had the option of having electronic equipment on the flights and being able to look at that.
Once you were at the city or the hotel before the match, how did you prepare yourself before the match? What was your procedure?
Oh, there's one more thing that I did want to say about traveling.
Please.
And that's that you have to know where you're going and how you're going to get there. We've had several problems with people who, I didn't know I had to have a visa and not go, and get the visas required in time. And you have to be sure that your travel arrangements are made and confirmed, and you've let your own national federation know what your travel arrangements are, and you have to know where you're going and who might be at the other end. Who is in the organization that's going to meet you, and if they don't meet you, do you have a phone number where you can contact them? So those kind of situations arise, I think, more often than should.
Yeah.
And people have to make those kind of preparations. So now, what was your question?
How do you prepare yourself before the match? I mean, when you were in the hotel or the day before or during the day of the match, do you have a special preparation, a special procedure or something that you would do, like a
Yeah,
routine?
well, actually, I mean, as I said, there was usually an 8-hour flight, and that usually meant I was somewhere with a time zone that was nowhere near my own, and acclimating as quickly as possible to a new time zone is something that you have to do very quickly. And I think it's harder now because we used to have 3 days at least.
Yeah.
We would have to arrive 3 days before any event. And now, no, I think you have a shorter period of time, don't you?
I think in confederations, you arrive 1 day before the match, or if it's tournament, could be 2 days before the match's start or something like that.
So that's one thing that's very important. You have to get your rest right away so that you're acclimated to the new time zone. You have to get on a new schedule of eating, and yeah, that sort of thing. I thought that
would you on the day of the match, would you make sure that you get some sleep before the match, or did you have a special routine that you would do at the hotel before going to the venue? Some referees would say that they would have some kind of concentrating or relaxing or go to the gym, special things.
I tended to get up in the morning and walk.
Mm-hmm.
I would do some sort of exercise fairly early in the morning, before breakfast even, and then I would tend to review who the teams were that I was going to be looking at that day. And as time went on, I was familiar with most of the teams that were out there. That became easier, but still, I would like to do that. And then I would, once I left the hotel and went to the sport hall, I had a checklist. It was written. It was also in my mind, and that's what I would go through as I, approached the sport hall, went in, met the officials that I was going to be working with, and talked with them, and then approached the match that way.
Did you check the match if it has a potential to be difficult? Did you have any special, I would say, superstitious items that you would have? I mean, something special that you would say that I must have in every match, these socks, or this is my lucky coin or my lucky whistle or something like that?
I did use the same whistle through my entire career.
Wow, this is what a whistle that survived so many matches.
It was a Roy Gonya orange whistle with a P in it. And I used it through the entire career. And after my last match, I got off the ladder, put it on the floor, and crushed it. But other than that, no superstitions.
But did you check the matches, the difficulty of the match? Did you review?
Yeah, I was going to say, I tried to approach every match the same way. It's all just volleyball, and there were times when the press would actually interview the referees before matches, and they would say, what's the most important match of your career? And I would say, this one. Because that's the way it is. I was instructed in meditation in the 60s. Of course I was in California. It was the 60s, and that's what we did back then. But I've practiced it since then, and pretty much learned that you have to be in the moment. And so the past matches are in the past. The future is way up in the air. What you're doing is what you're doing right now. And I carried that as much as possible into refereeing the match. And I mean, rally to rally, to be in the moment. And plus, before the match, like I said, I had a checklist.
Mm-hmm.
It was in my mind and on a piece of paper, so that everything that I did before the match had a purpose. And I tried to keep that appearance that whatever I was doing had a purpose, and it was businesslike. And the teams are watching you, the spectators are watching you, the coaches are watching you, and this is what they want to see. You know what you're doing, you look like you know what you're doing, and they then have confidence in you.
Yeah. Saying that you would focus on the present and not think too much on the past or the future takes off a load of tension on the referee itself, because this is something which is occupying most referees, thinking on the future, if this match will affect my future, or on the past, did I do a very bad performance till this match, and how it's going to be. So by putting some, not putting any thoughts about it, puts a lot of tension aside, and you're more relaxed when you come and whistle.
Yeah. You want to, you've got plenty of time after the match to go over your mistakes. And I needed a lot of time sometimes to do that. But you really, that's the purpose of being in the moment, is to take the tension away from what's going on in front of you. Mm-hmm. And that's why that was my practice.
Once you entered the court in your uniforms, how did you do your work? I mean, were you nervous or tense, or you felt calm and everything was flowing during the protocol prior to the match?
Well, yeah, I think something's wrong if you don't have a little bit of excitement, a little bit of nervousness before every match. You have to. That's part of why we do this. It's always a challenge, and you want to be up to that challenge. But if you go through your procedures and a protocol and have it set, this is a time when you're not having to make decisions. You're making sure everything is right, so that when you are working, you don't have to worry about all the little stuff, the equipment, whether your officials are with you, and how you're going to respond to them and they to you while you're working as a referee. So yeah, I'm always excited, but I worked very hard not to show it.
Yeah, it's all about not showing, apparently, with referees. I mean,
you have to have a game face. I mean, it doesn't have to be the same face. You can react. You're a human being. Yeah. But you have to do it in a certain way, and always be sure that you're paying attention to what's going on in front of you.
So once you were on the chair, how did you stay focused for so long? I mean, at those times, our matches could be at the most 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and a half would be considered very long. At that times, I know points were different. It could run 3 hours and so.
Yeah.
What were your abilities to keep focused such a long match? How did you relax or recharge your focus during that match?
Okay, one specific method is breathing. You have to know how to breathe in, as Jimmy Buffett says, breathe in, breathe out, move on. But between the rallies, you have to be able to stand there, take a deep breath, blow it out slowly. That brings the state down. Mm-hmm. And during the rallies, you're focused. But you focus during the rally, you relax between the rallies, or at least when there's a game interruption. You still have to be fairly focused between rallies. And yeah, I had several matches that lasted more than 3 hours, and that was difficult.
I guess that after such a match, you would come down, you would be exhausted, even not because of physical exhaustion, but also mentally exhausted because you were focused so long.
Yeah, that's true. I think I just thought of another great difference between the time when I started and now, and that was the international referee uniform. When I started, we were wearing all white.
Yep.
And to keep that uniform looking decent through a 2 or 3 week tournament, you might have 2 full suits, but that was a matter of a problem. Yeah, the 2.5, 3 hour matches would take a toll on you. The best volleyball match I ever saw was the finals of the Olympic Games in Atlanta with Italy playing the Netherlands. And that was just short, I think, of 3 hours. 5 sets, every set was 2 points apart. Yeah. And it was a fantastic match. But Pepe Sandler and Willie Paredes were the referees, and they just came off the match and walked over and said, "Wow." And they were exhausted.
How was your interaction with the participants? We were speaking before, we were talking about that the requirements were not to allow too much dialogue between the participants with the coaches or with the thing that time. So how did you said that you were not so as the requirements are things. So would you say that you had a good communication with them?
I tried to, yeah. One thing that I think, well, I did then, and I think referees have to do now, is listen. Volleyball is a game of victories and defeats. Every rally, somebody wins and somebody loses. So at the end of the rally, one side is happy, the other may be frustrated and unhappy. Okay, these are normal human responses, and they're going to have normal human behavior to those responses, and you have to allow that. That's part of the show. You know, people want to see a little celebration. They want to see, they understand when a team does something and they're frustrated at the end of the rally. But you do have to see what's going on and allow that and listen. When a player says something to you, I mean, yeah, it's supposed to be the captain, but it might be somebody else. And if they say something that you think requires the captain to talk to you, you can say, "Thanks, I understand what you're saying. Send your captain over. I'll talk to him." But you have to listen to it. You can't just dismiss it. You know, if they say something that isn't anything, you just look at them and say, "Are you done? Okay, let's play." And so, yeah, I do like to have communication. Yeah, I watched the sessions with Giovanni and Patty and Wojciech and Yuri, and I think they all feel that way. Once you establish a communication and that you have some connection to the players and the coaches, you're going to do better. They're going to be more forgiving when you do make a mistake. And now, of course, with Video Challenge, you have the opportunity to say, well, you know, you think it was out and I thought it was in, it was close. Why don't you see? Yeah. and to force the challenge. Back then, you'll say, well, I understand how you might have seen it that way, but that's not the way that I saw it. So that's what the decision is, and we're going to move on.
So because I'm asking that because the impression is that 20 or 30 years ago, it was more strict about having some conversations or allowing the players or the team members to come and talk to you. Even if they would just raise their hand or protest in something, immediately a card, if I remember correctly, a card would show up. And
yeah,
it's more flexible.
Yeah, that was never my practice. I see that one of my mentors has come on. Good evening, Mr. Steele. And I think they all feel that way. Once you establish a communication and that you have some connection to the players and the coaches, you're going to do better. They're going to be more forgiving when you do make a mistake. And It's nice to have you on. Um, and he was one of the ones who instructed me in the proper way to deal with players and coaches, and that was with personality.
Um, it's,
Uh,
it, please. Okay, okay.
Go ahead.
It's well known that when the team have respect and confidence in the referees, the match will be easier to manage. It will flow easier in most calls. How did you earn their trust and confidence?
Yeah. It took a long time. um, you need to have familiarity with the teams. Once they see you and once you have done a good job when they're on the court, the next time they see you, they're going to be more relaxed. Mm-hmm. When teams see a new referee, they're going to test them every time. You can expect that when you come on to the scene as a new referee, especially internationally. They're going to test you. And once you respond in the correct fashion, you earn their confidence that way. And as long as you can be consistent in the way that you run a match, you're going to earn their confidence more and more as time goes on. I always had some things in my pocket that I would say, depending on the behavior. When you get a coach who's over on the bench and making all the out signs and in signs and touch signs and all this, and you don't want to see that, you're not going to pull a card on them. But I would call the captain over and say, would you please go over to the bench and tell your coach that he's your coach, he's not mine. And as much as I respect his opinion, I really don't want it right now. And that worked. I mean, they would go over and say that, and the coach would go, okay. And basically they tend to stop that. So that.
When a team or participant or somebody would get angry at the referees? I mean, when you have somebody's trying to have a discussion with you or becomes a little bit aggressive, not physical aggressive, but starts to shout and to be to say things on the referees. How would you handle that? How did you handle the situation that time? Would you be very strict, or would you try to understand what's going on? Would you let them, or would you stop it immediately?
First of all, you have to let it stop. If they're doing something and there is an end to it, that's when you make a decision as to what to do. You go through a progression. If it's the captain coming over and yelling at you, you say, I understand that what it looked like to you was this. It didn't look like that to us, and the decision was made, and we go on. If they persist, they say, that's the end of it. This is your warning. The next thing you come out with is the yellow card. Yeah. So you go through a progression, but don't just go bang right away and kill them.
So would you feel any kind of empathy to the players, or some, would you get angry on participants, let's say coaches or players who would abuse that, or would be challenging your decisions and everything every time? It can be sometimes upsetting or even causing the referees to become angry at some persons. Did it affect you as well?
You might get angry, but you never show it. Okay. Well, actually, I would say you never get angry. You get concerned with the behavior, and you let them know that you don't appreciate the behavior, and you let them know that there may be consequences if they continue the behavior. But you can't get angry. That just destroys you in the eyes of everybody out there. Mm-hmm. You of everybody else has to maintain composure. The players, the coaches, they're all out there to win. They're all out there doing their hardest, and it's hard to do that without expressing something that might look like anger, but it's your job to resolve that and to bring it down to a point where it's a sport again. It's not a battle.
Yeah. when you had to make a decision in an exceptional situation, something that caught you off guard, like you said, maybe the redesignation of a libero or something, some play that was, you know, that catches you off guard, because there are sometimes plays which are not in the rule book specifically or something. How would you assess this situation, and would you do your call? I mean, what was going through your head once you whistle and you're thinking, what's gonna be my decision, because it's not something clear, and how did you assess that?
Well, first of all, you, as a referee, you have to get all the information that you can use before you make a decision. All right. How do you do this? And as I said, the preparation to me is super important. You have to know what the protocol is in different situations, so that when you're up there, you know what you have to do. Now all you have to do is go about doing it. And your preparation is important. And one thing that's really important to me then, and I think to referees now, is you have to maintain a consistent pace between the rallies. When you blow the whistle, you make your first signal, you make your second signal, you indicate a player if you have to, and then you move on to a protocol to begin the next rally. You have to do it at the same pace every time. It doesn't matter if it's a ball that's hammered down or if it's a ball over the net where it could be a fault on either side or even a replay. The decision has to be made at the same pace each time. You know the ball's dead at some point, you blow the whistle. You get the information that you need from your line judges, your second referee, and then you make your decision. But if you do that at the same pace every time, you're going to have more time when the decision is difficult. So that was one practice that I would always put into effect, and that I encourage new referees to use.
So do you think that the action of the referee, the first referee or second referee, should be a slow, moderate tempo kind of action, or not too fast? Maybe, you know, that there's a tempo. I would say sometimes somebody would tell me, you whistle, then you do your signals. It's a 1, 2, 3, meaning on a really slow tempo, or would you go on a faster one?
You want to keep the match moving. Okay, that's an object. So the total time, you can't extend that very much. But your particular pace at the end of the rally, yes, I think that you slow down just a little bit, so that each time you do something, you've blown the whistle to end the play, everybody says, okay, the play's over. The next thing is you've got to award the next serve. Okay, which way is it going to go? Then you show what the fault is. Then you show the player at fault. Okay, and yes, it's whistle 1, 2, 3. You never do them more than one of those at the same time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen referees go up there that blow the whistle and go. You know, they award the serve, show the fault, and blow the whistle at the same time.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's certainly not the way to do it. I really like the consistent pace. And yeah, I think that the time that you have between you're showing the next serve and the next serve also has to be consistent. And you want to keep the teams moving, because that's where I think the time is wasted.
Yeah.
That, and of course with the video replays, but that's part of the show now. So that's what you have to do.
You know that they said, I read an article where they did I think in the CEV, they made research. They found out that every time there's a challenge on the television, the spectators, the people who watched at home, once there was a challenge, the 99% stayed on the channel and they didn't zap to another channel. So once there was a challenge, most spectators, most people who were watching television stayed on this channel to see the result of the challenge, and they didn't change the channel and everything. So even though it prolongs the match, it still keeps the tension high for people to watch.
Well, now whenever there's a challenge, that gives me an opportunity to go get another beer.
Just keep the TV on, but you go for the beer, and then you can hear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, it's going to take at least that long. So it's always a good opportunity. And certainly it's better now that they don't have the 10-minute interval between sets 2 and 3, or at least sometimes they don't have that interval, because I think that's when a lot of people would go away. But
of course.
yeah, there was one other thing that you asked me, is there a difference between a calm, easy match and a close, strong match?
Yeah.
And yes, there's a difference, but you still have to conduct the match the same way. One of the first matches I had, and of course this was before rally scoring, was Canada playing the Virgin Islands at the Norseca Championships. And the scores of the 3 sets were 15-0, 15-0, 15-1. And
to the Virgin Islands.
I will say yes, Canada was the winner, but boy, that one point got celebrated by Virgin Islands. And your job as a referee is to keep that match respectful. This is a national team. Teams come in there with a level of respect. They're representing their country or their club or something, and you can't let it be a joke. They know they're going to get the crap beat out of them, but they're going to do their best while they're doing it, and they want the referee to make it fair. Mm-hmm. And that's sometimes more difficult than it is with a strong match. So I want to be sure that you have to take a measure of pride in yourself that you're able to make that match happen, and at the end everybody's satisfied.
Yeah.
They know that there was a winner and their loser, but they want to be sure that they had the same shot that everybody else did during that tournament.
If you felt you made a mistake or a tough call, how does it impact you at the moment up there on the chair? Did you think about it, or did you have the ability to put it aside and to continue the match without having thinking all the time about the point lost or something that you did? How did you handle that?
Well, yeah, early in the career as a referee, yeah, I'm sure I thought about it probably through the whole rest of the match. But as I said, I developed that practice of being in the moment, and I think that worked to a great degree. The point's over, nothing else is going to happen as far as that point is concerned. Mm-hmm. Now I'm on to the next rally, and the practice of breathing, the practice of being in the moment, letting the past go and not worrying about the future, I think that worked to a great extent.
Okay. When the score was really close at the end of the match or at the end of the set, the last points, how did you prepare yourself to whistle just before service? You know it's going to be probably the last point or a crucial point, and you have the feeling the tension is up. How did you prepare yourself just before whistling for service?
The first thought that went through my mind is, it's just volleyball. You've done this for years. You can do this one. You breathe in, breathe out, and go do it. The excitement is high, but again, you have to have that practice of being in that moment and having your senses all tuned to what's going on. You have to realize what's going on in front of you, and that last point is certainly crucial. Mm-hmm. But that's the way the sport is, and that's the way I would go about it.
Once the match is finished, how did you feel, first of all, when going down the chair? Did you feel the focus or the tension coming out of you, some relaxation, saying, thank God it's done, or I'm happy that it's done, and standing there to shake the hands and everything?
Well, you have to remember that you're still being watched
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the match. And so, yeah, you're relieved to some extent that the pressure itself is off, but you have to maintain your appearance. You get down, whether or not you shake hands. Well, I don't even know in the age of COVID-19 whether they're going to be shaking hands at all. But basically, that's up to the players and the coaches. And I found that certainly later in the career, they all came through and shook hands and had something good to say. There were times
I met and saw some referees who insist on having to shake their hands, because they say that this is part of fair play, meaning giving him respect. But on the other hand, you cannot insist on somebody who doesn't want to shake your hand.
That just goes to the character of the people involved.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not going to shake hands, that reflects on them, as far as I'm concerned, more than it would reflect on the referee.
Okay. Once you arrived to the dressing room, was there any important for you to talk about the match, or would you say it's finished, there's nothing to talk about, what is done is done? Did you watch the videos of the match afterwards, if it was important for you as well?
No, I always wanted a debrief after the match. I wanted as many of the officials in there as possible, the referees, the line judges, the scorers. I wanted to get their impressions of the match, how it went for them, how was the communication between those officials and the ones that they had to deal with. Especially, I wanted to know if the line judges felt that I was looking at them every time as a first referee and getting their information. I wanted to be sure, and certainly I would have a more extensive debrief with the second referee to be sure that the communication was there. Now with headsets, you're doing it during the match. Yeah. And it's a lot easier. And I wanted to be sure that the scorer was able to follow everything that we were doing, and that the pace, for instance, wasn't too fast for them.
When you had a bad match, meaning you finished the match and it was with a bad feeling, not maybe because of a mistake, but maybe the teams were not happy about the match or about your officiating and everything. Did it influence you? Did you lose some sleep on it? Would you think about it a couple of days afterwards as well?
You have to make mistakes to learn. The problem is if you don't learn from those mistakes. So, yeah, I had a lot of opportunities to review my own bad matches. And after every match, I'm going to look at it. I kept a journal, and I'm going to look at it and I say, what went right and what went wrong? And if it was something that went wrong, I would say, what could I do or another official do to make that situation better? And if it was right, I would highlight it and say, be sure we do this from now on. And if it was wrong, I would say, okay, one way or another, we're going to make sure that we correct what happened in this situation and get that communicated to, I think it's really important when you're away and you're totally involved in a tournament to socialize as an official with your other officials. You want to make friends with them. You want to know that you're communicating with these other people and that they're communicating with you, so that when you all go out on the court, you are one team. You are working together and you want the other official to do well. You have to do everything you can to make the job easier. I tell you, I never appreciated anything more than having a great second referee as a first referee.
Mhm.
It made the job so much easier. And now with the headsets and being able to talk to each other and help that way, that's one thing that I think would have been great back then.
You whistled many matches before the challenge system was implemented. So seeing it today and the use and the influence of this, also like you were talking about the headset and stuff, and the decision making today with the challenge system. What's your opinion about that system?
Well, it's a great tool, but it completely changes the dynamic of refereeing. You had to, before the challenge system, you were making a call, and you had to take the most possible care that you had all the information and were making the right decision. And then you had to stand with it throughout all the complaints and whatever. Now they can challenge. So yeah, if it's an obvious error, I mean, that's on you. That's a problem. When it's close, it's that situation where, you may have seen it one way, I saw it another. If you don't like that decision, then you can challenge it. I think that you have to learn that the new referees have to learn a balance of personal refereeing, which is what we've all done for years and years and years, and then balance it with this tool of the video challenge and know that one way or another, the decision's going to end up being right because they can challenge it. Mm-hmm. So, why make a big deal? You still make the best decision you possibly can.
Yeah. You were talking about the communication and the headset together. Before you had the headset, when you were whistling, there was no headset. And most of the times you would receive a second or a first referee that you never whistled before with. Not most of the time, probably, but in some occasions you would have some referee, which is the first time whistling with. So you don't know how his communication with eye contact or with hand signals and everything to help each other is working. How would you work with, work with those new referees that you had to work with and to learn how to do?
That would necessitate an extended pre-match briefing. And I would go over basically the duties of the other referee and say, what are you going to do in this situation? And yeah, if I'm the experienced referee and the other referee is new, then I'm going to be the one who's flexible. I am going to say, what are you going to show me in this situation? And then I'm going to look for that. And I might not see it. And then I know, okay, I have to do this on my own. But I'm going to try to find out what they're going to show me and when, what they're going to do in a certain situation as far as hand signals are concerned. And I'm going to emphasize the eye contact between rallies to be sure that we're in the same place and ready to go on.
I would guess that you would meet referees from other countries or even other continents which have totally different kind of refereeing techniques and things that were different from you.
Well, I would hope not. We were trying to instruct everybody to have the same techniques, but yes, that would happen. And I think that one thing was important was language. I mean, yeah, FIVB's official language is English, okay? Well, the English of FIVB basically is contained in the rule book and maybe, the guidelines. So everything that you would have to say to not only other referees, but to teams and captains and coaches, pretty much has to come from the rule book or the guidelines in order for you to have a credible conversation. Mm-hmm. When I was directing clinics for international referee courses, I I might have a referee or two from the US or Canada or England, although that's a foreign language as well, and or Australia, and then I would have people for whom English is a second language. I mean, yes, I understand it's a business language for a lot of people, but volleyball English is probably a second language for a lot of people. And I would tell the Americans, the Canadians, the British and the Aussies, okay, you have to take your English and reduce it to what's in the rule book and the guidelines. And everybody else for whom English is a second language, you have to be expanded so that it fits there too. And yeah, when you go out and you're a referee on a match between Burkina Faso and South Korea, and you're talking to the captains, well, the only English that they're going to speak is what's contained in those books, if that. So the communication aspect is important.
Are there any things, what kind of tips, advice, and information would you give to the young referees that you meet? Any kind of mentor tips that you would tell them?
Yeah, there's a few things. First, watch as much volleyball and good volleyball as you can, and watch the officials if you've got the opportunity to do so. You know, some of the video doesn't show the referees very much. But if you're at an event and at a tournament, you go watch the other matches and you watch your fellow officials and how they work. And look at the good ones. I mean, I always had somebody who I would tell a referee to go watch for a certain aspect of the game. You know, if a referee had a problem with decisiveness, you know, the ball would land and the whistle would blow 2 seconds later, or, you know, the ball would land, the whistle would blow, and they would sit there and not do anything, then I would tell them, go watch this referee, okay? He's decisive. He's going to show you how you end a rally and then show what's going to happen. And the same thing for any other, you know, situation. But you go and you watch. And I think one of the other things that I would encourage referees to do is have somebody video them. I found we have referee camps in the U.S. and that's what we do. We set a video up on the first referee and one up on the second referee, and we take that video and either we show it in its entirety after the match, or we try to clip it and bring out the instances where we want to make a point or where a decision had to be made. And when a referee sees themselves in that situation, they improve just like that. Yeah. It's really amazing. And then, you know, as I said at the beginning, find yourself a mentor. I mean, I had so many great ones, not just the referees that I was able to work with, but Dr. Holve, who directed my course, Sandy Steele, who's with us now, Gabby Kraus, Dr. Ma from China, Wink Davenport from the US. They were all, okay, they were all very direct in their remarks to me, whether they were positive or constructive. And I always loved it when with Dr. Holve, when a referee would go up to him and say, after a match, do you have any remarks for me? And he would say, go home and put a lot of paper in your fax machine.
Yeah, I know. Dr. Holloway had two signature things. There's the paper machine, there's a lot of paper in your fax machine, and said, you whistled very good, but.
Yeah, there was always the but.
Yeah. Before we open the stage for any open questions to you, do you have any things to add to finalize this interview?
No, as I said, I appreciate the opportunity to blather out the ancient history when we were playing with rocks and, you know, how it was in the old days. It was different, but the science of refereeing and the art of refereeing are still very much the same. You have to use your personality, your characteristics, your knowledge of the rules, and your ability to apply them before any of the technology comes into play. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all and talk about it.
Do you think that it's important also for the mentors, not just referee coaches, the professional ones or anything, but all mentors, they have to keep updated on the rules, because rule changes. The rules change. And like you said, there was an evolution on volleyball. There's the technology and some weight on the management and on the way that the referee do the assess and do their decisions a little bit changed. So the mentors from old times, from 20, 30 years ago, like yourself, have to also adapt a little bit to this new kind of volleyball in order to give the correct help and the correct advice to the young referees?
Absolutely. I hope that, and I think that it is happening, that the FIVB and the confederations and certainly our national federations are making the materials available that instruct referees and re-instruct referees in the rules and the changes being made. And yeah, I mean, when I was an active referee or on the referee commission, I would be spending 10 to 20 hours a week just to be sure that, well, not just with the work of what I was doing, but making sure that I was keeping up with what the Rules Commission was doing and the guidelines. Now I find that a little harder to justify spending that kind of time, because I don't have that much of an audience. But I am still involved to some degree, especially within the U.S. So I want to be sure that I'm at least familiar with the rules and guidelines, and that I can identify when there is an issue out there, and whether a referee is keeping up with those rules themselves.
Okay, Tom, thank you very much for your opinions and your thoughts. It was very informative. I'm going to open the stage now to any questions. If anybody has anything to ask Tom, just unmute yourself and join, please. Anybody still there awake? Yeah, Gloria.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this interview. It's really, really informative and friendly, so thank you very much. And I would like to ask you, if you miss in the actual refereeing, if you miss something from the past refereeing, you think that we should consider that there is something that maybe we have to recover back from the past or not?
So you're asking whether or not there was something from when I was a referee that we're missing now?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
The characteristics of the top referees when I was there. I've seen Patty Rolfe and Susana Rodriguez referee, and they're fantastic in the way that they use their personality to control a match. It's like, you know, mom's up on the stand and you're not going to misbehave. And they have their techniques of using that to run the match. And the other top referees are the same. They use their personality to do so. And that hasn't changed from the time when I was there, and when those other referees that I cited were up there. You could see that they had the personality to control the match, and they did so. So hopefully the people who are refereeing now are using those same techniques.
Okay. Yes, Andy.
Hi. Great to hear all this expertise. I'm going to ask Tom a very dangerous question.
Oh
Okay, and
no, here it comes.
yeah. Oh, you'll know why it's dangerous, because I'm going to ask you, what is the importance of a good scorer in a top level match?
She went inside. Yeah, I had the good fortune of marrying a lady who knew what she was getting into, had nothing to do with volleyball before she met me, and then became an Olympic scorekeeper. So the value of a good scorer, you didn't have to worry about it. And you know, as a referee, and this of course is another difference between the time when I was a referee and now. All you had to do to be a good referee in those days was look like you were a good referee and make sure that you had confidence in everything that you called. Whether or not you actually knew the rule or not was secondary. But if you had a great appearance, then you did well. As a scorer, no. You have to know exactly what you're doing. And Janet did. So I had that great opportunity. She turned out to be the chair of our scores commission for 12 years in the US, and conducted her own clinics and taught and was a mentor to a lot of international scorers. And Sandy Steele was one of the ones who helped her.
Thank you. Very kind of you to say so, but I think she did most of it on her own.
Well, we all needed somebody.
Okay. Anyway, great to hear you, Tom.
Actually, the best thing that Sandy Steele ever did for us, in 1994, we had the men's world championships in Greece. And at the end of the championship, Janet flew over to Greece, and we were planning, and did, thank God, take a cruise out of Athens, and we went around the Mediterranean. And the night before, which was after the tournament, and there was a party, there came the situation where all of a sudden Janet said, "Where's my purse and my passport and my wallet?" And she just pretty much melted into tears. And so while I and the other referees went to look for her purse and everything, Sandy was comforting my wife. And I will bless him till the day I die for that.
And the divorce papers come in later.
I think this shows how much of a big family we all are, and those connections, those friendly and family connections that we do in during those tournaments and those matches and everything together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Any other questions before we finish this interview?
No questions, Roy. Thank you for a great job, and to Tom. I just wanted to highlight Tom and thank him. He was instrumental in for me coming from Canada, obtaining my international badge in 2009. I had the opportunity to work and be mentored by Tom in Minneapolis, and so I just want to thank Tom for that. So really appreciate all that you have done for the Canadian referees in particular as well.
Well, you're quite welcome, Andrew, and you deserved everything that you got. And yeah, that's another thing. Referees from your federations, you're up at the top of a level in your federation now, and you need to be mentors, not just to the people in your federation, but reach out. And yeah, the U.S. and Canada, and the U.S. and Puerto Rico, and the U.S. and Mexico have, in the past anyhow, I don't know what's happening now. Some of us can't even travel to the other countries because of the virus. But in the past, we have really worked well together in bringing referees in and going to the other countries and seeing who the top officials were and what the practices were in the various federations. And as the top referees in your countries, you need to actively do this. You need to watch for the people who you see have talent and then encourage them and be mentors. And it was certainly a pleasure to have Andrew down to Minneapolis and to watch him in our national championships.
Okay. So thank you very much again, Tom, for being with us. It was very, very informative. It was very, very educational and very interesting to see and to learn about the history of volleyball refereeing through the Stone Age and from those times. And again, I think that your opinions and your philosophy of mentoring and continuing education and working with referees, this is something that all referees have. It's the ability and the personality of being not just a referee or to try to achieve the highest level of refereeing, but also to try and achieve mentoring and educating other referees. So always when we meet some referees, we talk together and work on the information, and it's all about education and the need to learn more and more, even when you are not a referee or just as a spectator and everything. Thank you very much, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Tom. It's good to see that somebody from my old age, 1985 badge, you know.
It's yeah, I think that the best thing that I take away from my career as a referee or on the commission was the friends that I made around the world. And I still have all of those. So thanks again, Roy. It was good to see you all. Have a pleasant evening or day.
Yeah.
Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very